3.
Hello and welcome to Bowl.com. I'm Lucas Wiseman. Joining us today is Team USA member Derek Eoff, who just got back from a really successful trip to the American Zone Championships in Guatemala City. Derek, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us about, first off, you guys got started with a quick trip to Houston, and then just break down the doubles and singles for us.
Okay. We first start off, we left on May 22nd, and we met up in Houston, Texas to actually train for a couple of days. And while we were there, I want to thank Delmar Lanes first and Donna Connors and Carol Norman for allowing us to use their pro shop. They basically put out a short and a long pattern for us on a couple pairs of lanes for us to just practice on, work together as a team, learn about what kind of bowling balls we brought, how that would work, how the lanes would play. And it actually benefited me a lot. I ended up having to drill 2 bowling balls because my ball reaction wasn't very good on the short, so I drilled 2 for the short, a Thunderstruck Pearl and a Jolt Particle. From there, after training for a couple days, we went to Guatemala City in Guatemala to get basically on the way. We had an unofficial practice session and then an official practice session, and then singles started on Monday. And I bowled the late shift. When I got there, I saw that John Janowitz was leading. Him and Rhino Page both bowled very well, so that was good to see. And then I watched the middle shift with David Haynes and Bill Hoffman bowl, and just kind of get a feel for how the lanes were playing and how I needed to attack and what I needed to do. And I basically started, my goal was just to make good shots, stay clean, and in the practice session I ended up having to get a little further right, and I used my Jolt Particle the entire time, and I had to take a little bit of hand out of it. It's kind of a little softer and weaker release, and once I did that, I just focused on making good shots, making my spares, and it turned out to where it came down to the 10th frame, and I needed to double to win gold, or the first one to silver, and I ended up actually leaving a 10 pin the first shot in the 10th, so that gave me a bronze medal. So I couldn't have been happier with my start for the first event. I wasn't really nervous or anything, and just went out there and winning bronze medal in the first event. It was an amazing feeling. The next day we bowled doubles. The coaches handpicked who they paired together, and they partnered me with David O'Sullivan, who was also my roommate for the trip. So we actually bowled at 2 p.m. the middle shift. Rhino and John Janis bowled doubles the first shift, and we didn't get to watch them because we wanted to sleep in, get some rest. So we got there and heard, and it was all in the long pattern, and the scores were a lot lower than what I anticipated they would be. I think only 1 or 2 teams were actually barely plus at that time. So we were kind of surprised when we got there, and the long pattern actually played a little different than the practice session. So I kind of tricked me at first. I went through a few ball changes, a couple different hand positions to try and get matched up, and I shot 160, 170 in my first 2 games. Luckily, David O'Sullivan had a good reaction and shot 270 the first game to hold me up. Then I changed to a solid Thunderstruck, and once I did that, all of a sudden my reaction was much better. Made my swing a little bit looser, and I was able to make good shots, and we went on to post a pretty big number. And I guess in the later shift, I think Canada made a late run, but hopefully, or they couldn't catch up to us, so we held on for the gold medal.
Now, in trios, I understand you guys had a little bit of adversity the first game.
Yeah, what happened was we started trios and we were practicing, and the pair next to us had a lot of breakdown issues. So they gave us 5 extra minutes. Well, during that time, they fixed their pair so everybody had the normal practice session, and we started bowling. Well, in the 3rd frame, we completed 3 frames. In the 4th frame, our first 2 bowlers, John and David O'Sullivan, bowled, and before I got a chance to bowl, our pair broke down. And we basically had to wait the entire game for them to fix it. So we had the option of finishing that game, making the entire field wait, or starting our second game with the entire field, and we chose the latter. So basically, I guess it would be our first game, but technically our second game, we started with the field, and we ended up bowling that game and the 3rd game, and then came back to finish our first game on a different pair that hadn't been used. It was kind of a breakdown pair. Turned out to be okay because we ended up putting a pretty big number. I think we shot 770 our last game and 750 our first game. So to give us a pretty good sized lead going into the long pattern, and once we bowled on a long pattern, they were pretty hard. We kind of just stayed clean even, and then actually held on to win the gold medal there as well.
In team event, you guys really ran away with it.
Yeah, team event was what we were there for. Our main goal was to win gold medal in the team event. We started on the short pattern in the morning, and we bowled pretty good. I struggled early, shot 160, but I know Rhino shot 280, and had my teammates pick me up. And we had a pretty good reaction. I think we had about a 170 pin lead going into the long pattern. We came back in the afternoon, bowled on long pattern, and then after the first game is when we really took the commanding lead. We shot 1170 our first game, and nobody else in the rest of the field, I don't think, broke about 1,000 or 1,050. So that gave us about a 400-pin lead with 2 games to go, and we just focused on staying clean, making our spares, and we knew if we did that, the gold medal was ours, and that's what we did, and we ended up winning gold there as well.
Final event was the Masters, which the United States swept the medals. You got knocked out by a fellow Team USA member. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the final event was the Masters, which they take the top 16 bowlers from all events, and they basically the first round is just a bracket seed, 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15. And since I was a 2 qualifier, I bowled a gentleman from Colombia. And what it is the right lane was the short pattern, the left lane was the long pattern. So the strategy and attack was a little bit different. I made my opponent finish on the short pattern because that was his weaker pattern. It turned out he didn't have very good ball direction. My direction was okay. I ended up bowling 650 to eliminate him. Well, the next round, they reseeded everybody based on that 3-game total pinfall. So it turned out where I ended up having to bowl David O'Sullivan, who him and I went 1-2 in all events. We had to bowl each other in the second round instead of potentially in the finals. It just turns out where we went to a different pair. I had a pretty good reaction, got some bad breaks, left some splits. Then when I had to strike, I couldn't. I left a lot of 10 pins, and David bowled great. He ended up shooting, I think, 650 to my 570 or so. And knocked me out of the tournament, but it's a great successful run, and I was happy for him to see him do well as well.
Derek, thanks for joining us. Congratulations again. And for more information on the American Zone Championships and the Team USA program, of course, visit bowl.com.